I'm asking for is one chance. That's all I ask for. And I'm begging you that one chance. Nothing more, nothing less. And at the end of that, I stand to be judged. I asked for one chance in Hanover, and I got 3 terms. And all I'm asking the people of Western Westmoreland and Negril in particular is for one chance. And I just get it simple.
Welcome to Negril Times, where we keep you connected to the heart of our town, its people, its issues, and the way forward. In this segment, we bring you part 2 of highlights from a recent meeting of the Negril Chamber of Commerce, where the PNP's caretaker candidate for Western Westmoreland, Ian Hayles, addressed a full house of local business leaders, tourism stakeholders, and concerned citizens. The meeting, held at the Boardwalk Shopping Village, included a robust Q&A segment that touched on some of Negril's most pressing issues, from water and sewage to self-governance, infrastructure, and the future of the town's vital tourism product. Director Nola Stair raised the long-standing issue of Negril's push for self-governance and municipal status, an idea that's been studied for years, but yet to materialize.
Yes, thank you. The current government has shown an interest in what it would mean for self-governance for Negril. They haven't done anything yet, but there's a lot of talk. The Chamber has studied the issue for many years, and even in partnership with the University of West Indies in Montego Bay. You know, the boundaries, the tax issues, the voting patterns. We're not interested in a parish, but you could become a town municipality. What are your thoughts on making that a reality?
It might get me into trouble. But look, I've always said that Negril needs some things. I mean, for what we contribute to the country, in terms of a hospital, in terms of a tax office, in terms of just the way that puts us in a position for what we are and what we contribute so that you don't have to journey down to Sabrina every chance you get. So for me, I am not there as yet in terms of the full municipality, but I'm somewhere where all the infrastructure in terms of the tax office, in terms of health, Negril ought to get. Look, it is no secret what we contribute to the coffers of this government and the country. If we were getting back 30% of what we contribute, we wouldn't be having this discussion now. So we're just asking for a fair shake. Just give us some of what we give to you so that we can survive on our own and do things on our own.
What do you favor?
I favor something. I favor a different approach. The approach that I favor is, one is we bring a tax office into Negril. We look at Negril and see how best. I know Mrs. Bradley plays a role in terms of the health center. How do we improve it and build upon it? Because the majority of us can't go to the private hospital in Negril. That's a fact. Might be cost restraint or other things. So we have to look at that. And then when those things get to Negril, then you can honestly say, you know what, should we know in terms of our destiny, look at municipality in terms of Negril. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. One last follow-up.
Okay.
Those are functions, but what about real decision-making for Negril?
Real decision making for Negril, if you real decision making for Negril. I'll tell you how best I look at it, and if I'm elected, how I look at it. You have to have a committee in Negril. The Chamber of Commerce plays a role. I think every quarter you should invite every politician here. What are you doing? What have you achieved? What have you done? What have you achieved? When do you expect to deliver? When do you expect to deliver X, Y, and Z? I think that's what you ought to do. Because you play a vital role. I mean, I was here from 3 o'clock. So you play that role, and it's a role that's important in terms of, not just from the business standpoint, because you employ citizens also, and that's the role you play. But I just think that you just like what the parish council does. You invite fire, you invite health, you invite the councillor, you invite the MP, just to have that conversation. What are you doing? It should not be that you wait 4 or 5 years for an election to invite me or to invite anybody else to ask them, what are you doing and how you plan to achieve and how you plan. It shouldn't be that. It should be something that is done every 3 months. You just invite, you have a small committee and say, look, we have to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things done. How we going to work with you to achieve that? I just think that's the better way. And if you do it that way, then you can solve a lot of the problems with Negril, because it would be a joint approach. Private chamber, the politician, civil society, if you can put a group in together like that, because we're all in the same boat here.
Okay.
Chamber Executive Sophie Grizzle pressed Hayles on the timeline for addressing Negril's chronic water shortages, specifically asking whether he would prioritize the Roaring River project.
Successful. Will you continue with the water project that has already been put in place? And if so, you will still do the one from Roaring River. How long do you think you would get that project through the system and started so that we'd start getting water here in from Roaring River?
I just want to say that one from the Hanover side, if I continue that project, we're going to run into the same problem that we're now facing. Because Bloody Bay coming on down, that entire stretch is poised for development. I'm just going to be straight with you. So it is best, and even if you take it from that side, whenever time there is whether you have flood rain or you have any kind of flooding, you have to shut down Great River. And once they shut down Great River, you have to shut down all the pipelines. So for me, I'd rather take it from Roaring River and the carburetor, put it just right here, and bring it straight to you. Your next question was, how long will it take? That's an emergency project. I can't tell you the time period that will take, but I don't see that taking 2 years. I think as a minister of state at the time, one of the things I ensure is that if I have to go and stand up there on a project and crack the whip, the project has to be executed and it has to get done, because the deliverables have to be there. So I sort of take this thing a little bit serious, and at times I get flack for it too. I get a beating for it, but I don't think it would take that long. And if, let's say, for example, that we do run into such a problem in terms of the project not finishing on time, I can honestly say to you that the government, my government, would step in and ensure that you have the water to run your business and to run your household from a residential standpoint. You have my guarantee.
One of the strongest endorsements of the day came from One Love bus tour operator, Lenbert Williams, who challenged Hayles on the critical state of Negril's beach and sewage system, but also declared that he sees the former MP as a potential future prime minister.
Mr. Hayles, by the look of things on the ground, very likely your government could be the next government to lead this country. And as a vice president of the People's National Party, it would be foolhardy to think that one day you will not become the prime minister of this country. Straight up. And he's a young man and he's got youth on his side. Now, I'm not going to take up your time because Negril has a whole heap of challenges. But for me, there's two major ones. And TripAdvisor voted Negril Beach one of the top beaches in the world. It was ranked among the top 10 best beaches in the world. Now, to me, Negril Beach is to Jamaica as the oil mines are to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Oman. That is the significance. It's a gold mine. Now, I want to know that if and when your government found the next election, how would you position the Negril 7 Mile Beach to be the ultimate income earner for this country? Now, number two, and this should not be for the media. We have a situation where our coral reef is completely damaged. The quality and the health of our beach water is completely compromised because of the sewage that goes into the Negril Harbor every day. 2 million liters of secondary treated sewage goes into the harbor. Now, if you became the next Minister of Water, that is going to be in your portfolio. What would be your solution to the 2 million liters of nutrients that is destroying the livelihood of thousands and hundreds of fishermen and compromising the health? And if, God forbid, if it gets out, what it would do to the image of this community. Thank you.
In terms of sewage, it's a long-standing issue in terms of sewage. I saw the other day on the West End, you had even some sewage that had to be dealt with. We have to find a way to move the sewage away from the beaches. I've seen a couple of plans within the NWC, but I'll tell you why things will move in a positive direction. It shouldn't be that the Minister of Water comes from Negril and that's why it would move. But in this case, I can honestly say that I'm intimately, I basically know what the problems are.
Yeah.
Because for 3 years now, I've just been going around and just been jotting down things and said, this has to be dealt with, that has to be dealt with. In terms of, and you're correct, in terms of the 7 Mile, it's our bread and butter, and it's something that has to be protected. So the sewage we're going to have to deal with. I don't have all the answers. I saw the other day in the group that you are when you were speaking of how do we move the sewage, how do we deal with some things. So I plan on just coming up with a good, decent steering committee here in Negril in terms of how we move the constituency and how we move Negril forward. It can be done.
Drifters Bar owner Luddy Sams didn't hold back either, noting his neutral political stance as a blue vote, but urging Hayles to fix eyesores like derelict vehicles and address poor street lighting.
Welcome to our chamber, Mr. Hayles. I'm neither orange nor green. I'm blue. That means I'm a floating voter.
Could be independent.
No, I'm not independent. I'm just a floating. I'm the man that he wants to attract.
Yeah.
My wife also. Moving around Negril, I've seen so many. We are new here. 15 years we are on a business, but cars getting dumped, vehicles getting dumped. You go along the non-trail road, I mean, you need to liaise more with the councillors to get these things sorted. Because when I got family members coming and they hear about this beautiful Negril and they walk around, another thing, the lighting, you hit at that point on the beach road and on the West End too. Okay?
As I say to you, it is a challenge. I know Councillor Collins' hands are tied in a lot of ways because he doesn't have a current member of parliament at the time that both of them works together. That's one. And I think two is, if the vision is different in terms of what Councillor Collins' vision is and it's not synchronized in terms of what the member of parliament, we're going to run into a situation where a lot of things don't get done. So, and that's one of the main reasons why I can't wait to work with him in terms of dealing with some of these things. As I said, some of these unregularized dumps we have to deal with. But I would want to do it in a way where it's dignified and it's not a hard and fast approach.
Businessman Cliff Reynolds asked for specifics on healthcare and housing, citing overcrowded hospitals and unacceptable conditions for residents.
And I have my investment in Negril. And I know we have a short list here of the things you're going to be doing. What I want you to get to hear from you on record, though, I want you to speak on housing and health, because those are quite very important as it relates to residents in Negril now and for persons who would have had their investment. The housing situation for the residents and health care is a serious thing. We would have heard earlier on where the ambulance met an accident. Closest hospital It's a juggle between Lucy and Savlamar. And it's a disgrace what is happening there. You will not leave this room before you speak to us on record about the healthcare.
All right, so for example, in terms of healthcare, I've always said over the last couple of years that we have to expand Savlamar Hospital. And you have to also do an expansion of the Lucy Hospital. Savlamar Hospital, if you should be sick now and Lucy can't take you, you go to Savlamar Hospital, your chances of getting a bed is anywhere between, and it's something that I have to make calls every week. You might have to wait anywhere between 4 and 5 days. If you do get a bed
In a chair.
or a chair at the Savlamar Hospital, that has to come to an end. It's unacceptable for any civilized society, for our citizens to be dealt with in that way. In terms of housing, we have some squatter settlements in Negril. Land was provided to move these individuals, and aesthetics and how you look, in terms of how you look, how you beautify and how you look. We have to go back to that. And what do I mean by that? The lands which were provided to relocate, and I've gone to a couple of these sites and speak to the citizens. They've agreed they want to move, but they need that help to move. So for example, if a government doesn't come in and say, hey, look, make the necessary allocation. The member of parliament every single year gets millions on their constituency development, basically a slush fund to do certain things that he wants to do. So from that standpoint, I think some relocation will have to take place. That's number one. But you have to do it in a dignified way, where it doesn't cause any problem. So you have to do it in a dignified way, and it is something that I'm looking at. In terms of the role that the government plays, we can't be going through as a town in terms of the grid, and everywhere you look, you see something goes up every single day. Something goes up every single day without any kind of approval, without nothing at all. So I think there are some things, and Councillor Colley on several occasions have spoken to me about some changes that he would want to see made. In Negril, his hands are a little bit tied at some point, but there has to be some changes that is done in a dignified way in terms of housing.
Is residential. My community is Whitehall. Operation Pride Side, since it has been completed, it has not been turned over to the municipal corporation. If you were elected, how is it that you would work with your councillor to get Whitehall as a community turned over to the municipal corporation? Right now, we are having tons of issues there. The next, my 9 to 5, I'm a craft vendor. My place of work is the craft market downtown. It is not one of the most hospitable places. As a matter of fact, I've heard names like a ghetto as member of parliament. Walk me through the process, how you would take us from where we are today to that nice panacea.
I'll tell you this much. I've always looked at the craft shops, and the other saying, the Chinese have that saying, and I probably shouldn't bring that up. They say, I don't sell what I like, I sell what the people like. We can't have, as an attraction, elephants when you go to buy something. When you come to Jamaica, this is just my opinion, when you come to Jamaica, you come to see something that's a unique product. What do we offer? What are we selling? I think oftentimes when we, as craft vendors, we make a lot of things that we need to change some things in terms of attraction. How do we attract the guests? What's unique about what the guest is going to buy here that he can't get in Africa or wherever else? So that's one. Two is, I think where the craft market is, I don't think you're in the right place. You're right here, you're right beside the fishing village. For me, I don't, my brother, I don't want to come and buy craft and smell fish. That's just me. So one of the things we have to do is relocate the craft market to somewhere that is acceptable. It's beautiful. Government spends money on it, and not just spends money on it and put you in a beautiful shop. Because one of the problems we've been having is upkeep. So it's beautiful when you're going. 2 years down the road, we're having problems with it. So in terms of the craft market, I would move the craft market away from the fish market. So if it's going to be fish, it can't be fish with craft. It has to be one or both, or one or the other. That's number one. Number two is that you speak to me in terms of Whitehall and turnover. Whitehall should have been turned over a long, long time to the parish council. And it is something that Councillor Colley speak to me about several times in terms of starting the process in ensuring that Whitehall can be turned over to the parish council. It is a process that central government has to play a role. So I am committing myself with Councillor Colley that it is something that we're going to have to, because when it's turned over, you can then go on in terms of road network, you can deal with that. You can deal with the lighting situation also, but you can deal with those things up front. I think one of the best projects that the Tourism Enhancement Fund can do right now is to ensure that the corridor from Orange Bay into Negril, all the way out to Namper going on there, that it's properly lit, and the West End. I mean, you go on the West End at night,
That's weird.
yeah, I mean, that has to be dealt with. So I'm saying two things. If the government won't step in, if the government won't step in terms of ensuring that the lights are back through the Tourism Enhancement Fund, it will have to be bought for the Constituency Development Fund, one or the other. Because as I say to you, when you get that Constituency Development Fund, when you take out education and you take out a couple other things, you can do at least 4 or 5 projects a year from the remaining balance. One of them ought to be lighting that entire corridor all the way so that our citizens can feel safe, one, the tourists can feel safe also, and you can ensure that in terms of the aesthetics and Negril, you give it a different look and a different feel.
In closing, Hayles made a direct appeal to the people of Negril, asking for one chance to represent them.
I've heard the argument that, you know what, why the People's National Party had this constituency so long. And the GLP has been in government for 9 years now, and still we haven't gotten enough. All I'm asking for is one chance. That's all I ask for. And I'm begging you that one chance. Nothing more, nothing less. And at the end of that, I stand to be judged. I asked for one chance in Hanover, and I got 3 terms. And all I'm asking the people of Western Westmoreland and Negril in particular is for one chance. And I'll just get it done. Simple.
The Negril Chamber meeting made one thing clear. The people of Negril are not short on questions, and they are demanding answers. From sewage and water to municipal status and healthcare, the expectations are high, and so is the desire for a leader who will act with urgency and transparency. That's it for this edition of Negril Times. Stay informed, stay engaged, and as always, stay connected to what matters most in Negril.